speaking like the old head here, but I know how hard it can be when there's a clamour and people put a lot of pressure on you, so I don't want to add the fuel to the fire, but he's definitely a brilliant player and he's going to have an amazing future at Man United and hopefully for England as well.
Kobbie Mainoo has had an incredible breakthrough season. Making his Man United Premier League debut? Calm. Everton away in his full debut? Composed. Liverpool away? Unfazed. Last minute winner against Wolves? Minor. Now Mainoo has made his full England debut and he was named man of the match. But is one friendly performance enough for Mainoo to earn a place in the starting 11 at the Euros? Gary Lineker thinks so. What Mainoo did against Belgium in his full debut is not normal. But as not normal as all this is, it's also not surprising. Mainoo has looked exactly the same at every level of football he's played at. And it brings us to two questions. Is 18 too young to start at an international tournament? Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney suggest not, but this is Rooney we're talking about. So can Mainoo use Euro 2024 as his international breakthrough like Rooney did 20 years ago? There's one crucial thing the two of them have in common, and I'll explain. But let me take you back to the 2000s to remind you of a few things. Rooney burst onto the scene when he was 16. The most memorable moment of his first season was his last-minute winner against Arsenal, making him the youngest goalscorer in Premier League history. That is bursting onto the scene. When he broke into the first team, supporters and commentators couldn't believe how young he was. Something we're seeing play out again with Kobbie Mainoo 22 years later, although not for the same reasons, but we'll get to that later. With Rooney, it was his physicality. He was already a man. He played 33 league games for Everton in his first season and 34 in his second. During this time, he made 13 appearances and scored 5 times for England as Euro 2004 approached, that he'd become synonymous with. Rooney had little pressure on him at club level as he was playing for Everton, but at Euro 2004, he'd be on the European stage, playing for a country with immense expectations. Could he live up to them? Yeah, he could. Rooney wasn't a player who was special for his age. He was special and stood out among the elite. Thuram found out the hard way. England lost against France, but Rooney ran the likes of Thuram, Makelele, Gallas, Vieira ragged. He had announced himself to the rest of Europe. He scored a brace in each of England's 2 remaining group games, and people started to talk about how this 18-year-old could be a game changer for England and could win them the tournament. Portugal were up next in the quarter-final. Rooney had the world at his feet. Who could stop him? Well, it turned out to be England's greatest footballing enemy. Not Germany, or Argentina, or Scotland. No, it was a broken metatarsal. Rooney tried to tough it out, but it was no good. His tournament was over, his foot was gone, and England's hopes went with it. But Rooney had been a force of nature. He was the top-tier player straight out of the box. Would England have won if not for Rooney's injury? We'll never know. But had they got past Portugal, you'd have fancied their chances against the Netherlands and Greece. 20 years later, and we are witnessing the emergence of another 18-year-old young English talent far beyond his years. That being said, Mainoo's arrival into club football has been different to Rooney. How? Well, simply put, Kobbie is playing for the biggest and most talked about club in the country. The stakes are high every second he has the ball at his feet. If he makes a mistake, it's going to be headline news and opposition fans are going to be all over him. And an impressive pre-season got people excited about him. Injury kept him from making his full league debut until the end of November, but expectations were already high. United were playing Everton at Goodison in what was sure to be a hostile atmosphere after their points deduction. Not an easy place for a young lad to come into the first 11, the pressure was on. Kobbie breezed through that game. Fans and pundits couldn't believe it. How? Is this kid only 18? How does he always have so much time on the ball? A couple of weeks later at Anfield, he had a very good game, shielding the defence as United came away with a clean sheet. He's not just ahead of his years in possession, he's mature and makes intelligent decisions whilst defending too. No under-21s midfielder in the top 5 leagues has a higher defensive duel win rate than Kobbie Mainoo. Mainoo has the most tackles per 90, the most interceptions per 90, the most blocked shots per 90 of any under-21s Premier League midfielder. But does he have more to his game than just keeping things simple? Can he grab a game and change the outcome in a single moment? Well, let's go to February 2024 and Mainoo's 8th Premier League start. United are playing Wolves and have thrown away a 2-goal lead twice. Pedro Neto scored deep into stoppage time to win his side a point. Heads drop, United players lose their cool. Not Kobbie Mainoo. He receives the ball, beats a man, nutmegs another, glides across the grass, slots it into the bottom corner, and even in this celebration he was composed. Hand down. Keep it calm. You better believe that he's a game changer. And his performance against Liverpool, that was the final straw for Gareth Southgate, and he called him up to the senior team.
How's Kobbie Mainoo not in that squad?
Oh, you're not going to do the honour, okay?
Roy, how's Kobbie Mainoo not in that squad? Come on, man. Come on, you know? Man has been benched today. Gosh.
Jordan Henderson? Nah, mate. Kobbie Mainoo. and the doubting and complaining started. United have been poor this season. It's easier for him to stand out. He's only played 14 league games. Surely that's not enough. Harvey Elliott or Curtis Jones deserve to be in the squad ahead of him. Yep, Harvey Elliott. Would Mainoo really be that useful to England? Well, he can play in all three roles in midfield, and that alone makes him a great squad player, but it's his natural ability to play in the first phase, receiving the ball from his own goal, that makes him a potential starter. England do not produce players like Mainoo. He's the perfect partner for Rice. He should absolutely be on the plane to Germany in the summer, but should he start? It's fair to say that his performance against Belgium has given legitimacy to that debate. Kobbie looked like he had an extra half second on the ball compared to everyone else on the pitch, because he did. Positioning. It's natural to him. He used his body to shield the ball from opposition players, like a seasoned pro, and got the better of Onana overall in the duels. He's physically far stronger than you think he should be at 18. And he was able to change the pace of the game and break it open in a split second with either a composed carry or a pass fizzed through a tight gap. And that decision to drive forward instead of back in the build-up to Tony's penalty, that's what he's all about. As Gareth Southgate explained, England don't really have a midfielder of Mainoo's profile.
He gives us a different profile of midfield player to anything else we've got. And we're really pleased with what he's done. You know, he's adapted and adjusted brilliantly.
And rarely have England ever had one. It's just not an atypical English midfielder. Jude Bellingham knows what the added pressure of being a breakthrough player does to you, having been one as an 18-year-old. And he knows how impressive Kobbie Mainoo is.
Speaking like the old head here, but I know how hard it can be when there's a clamour and people put a lot of pressure on you. So I don't want to add the fuel to the fire, but he's definitely a brilliant player and he's going to have an amazing future at Man United and hopefully for England as well.
I'd argue there's no more balanced midfield than Mainoo, Rice and Bellingham on paper. The only sensible arguments against him starting are his inexperience. But we know at club level that hasn't been an issue. And against Belgium, it wasn't an issue either. If we're being honest, if he's good enough and mature enough to play for United, he's more than capable of doing that for England as well. There are more differences than similarities when it comes to Rooney and Mainoo. Rooney had 2 years of Premier League experience under his belt before going to an international tournament. He also played in a position we are used to seeing young players thrive in more often. There's less responsibility. And we also have the benefit of hindsight to know that he went on to become one of the greats. But there is one crucial thing they have in common. Like Rooney, Mainoo isn't just impressive for a young player. We've already seen him look more than comfortable competing against top players. If Mainoo doesn't improve from his current ability, right now at 18, he'll still be good enough to play in United's midfield for the next 10 years. His ability and his mentality make his age irrelevant. He's a truly excellent player, potentially even better than we think he is. And Southgate should give him the platform this summer to show us, maybe like Rooney did, all the way back in 2004.